Welcome to the Ohio Home Inspector Network Inspector Talk podcast. I'm your host, James Jones. We have Nick, our president, Philipsack. He is also the owner of Peak Home Inspections. We're thrilled to have Mike Magno here from Keller Williams, leading the Magno Group, specializing in both residential and commercial real estate with over 21 years experience in the real estate industry. Welcome, Mike and Nick.
Thanks,
Question.
James. Appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely. So, what factors do you consider, Mike, when you're advising a potential person purchasing a residential or commercial investment property? What is it advice that you have, and how can inspectors be in that process and play a role?
Yeah. So for us, it's very important, the inspection process with our clients. As Nick knows, probably 90% of my clients are out-of-state investors that are buying these properties sight unseen. They've never seen them, they've never walked them, and probably never will. We do have a handful of clients that'll come quarterly and check out their properties, or during the escrow process, they'll come and check out their properties. But, by and large, the vast majority of our clients are buying these things completely sight unseen. So the most important things are, obviously the counsel that we can provide them with our experience in cooperation with our home inspection team, which Nick has done. I mean, I don't know how many inspections Nick and his guys have done for us over the last several years, probably at least 150, maybe 200 inspections. So, so it's very important for our clients to feel good about the process. Get the reports. The reports are clean, they're concise, they're straight to the point, and it makes it a lot more easy for people to palate to get that information and kind of make an informed decision on whether or not they want to continue the process, they want to ask for repairs, they want to ask for some type of credit, and kind of just continue stepping through the process.
What are some of the common issues that you run across? Property inspectors normally have a good feel or a good handle on common issues, but investment properties are unique. So what are some of those common issues that you run across, and how can inspectors help in that decision making and that delivery?
Yeah, the common issues, I would think, a lot of times when we're buying properties that are tenant-occupied, we find a lot of deferred maintenance. So making sure that the inspectors are going through the properties very thoroughly. I know from my experience with Nick and his team, they're checking everything. They're checking all the outlets. They're checking all the drains. They're checking all the plumbing. They're checking all the electrical. They're checking the foundation, the roof. They're checking to make sure all the windows work properly. Because we do run into a lot of properties where, they're being sold a certain way. We might be being led to believe they're a little bit more turnkey than they truly are. So it's important that the inspectors come in and find those issues for us. In our market, right, most of the properties are 80 to 100 years old. So, you run into a lot of the same types of issues, whether it's, old electric, right? Knob and tube's very common here. Cloth wiring's very common here. Plumbing wise, galvanized lines, cast iron, things like that are always very common in our areas. So, those are just a few things I could think of off the top of my head.
This question is for both of you.
Okay.
I get a lot of feedback from inspectors in our blogs and also on our Facebook group. How do you see the relationship between real estate agents and home inspectors evolving, especially with investors and the changes in the market? How do you see things? How can we work together better?
Yeah, I think we have to. I think trust is an issue for sure, right? We have to trust that you're going to catch everything, right? Or as much as you can, right? There are limitations there, and also, understanding that the way that we portray the information to the client is done in such a way that it doesn't derail the deal before it ever gets started. So I think that's kind of the things, and I'm a no, I'm a very no nonsense, kind of right to the point with people, and Nick's the same way when conveying the message. Like, if the place is a piece of crap, we'll tell you right away.
Well, a lot of realtors like working with us. One is I've been in the industry for since 2000, early 2000s, in the real estate industry as a whole. I was a full-time agent for 8 years, so I know the problems they have to deal with. I know the transaction issues and dealing with clients and how they feel, talking to home inspectors. I had a construction company. I had investment properties. So I've been in all aspects of this, especially for Mike's clients, because I can see what I wouldn't pay for stuff as an investment person. But I also talk to them and go through everything, because our reports, even though I'm just looking for what's going to cost them the most money and be most efficient, I'm looking, and we're going to write everything in the report. But when I talk to them, I go, look, this is our maintenance list of stuff. We have everything in here, everything we found wrong with the place. These are the items that this is going to cost you the most money. This is what the biggest problem is, and that's how we kind of portray our message towards the clients. And realtors appreciate that. Mike appreciates that. A lot of his clients are not with us. They're out-of-state investors. So he takes videos. Our reports are real detailed with pictures, but I'm getting a phone call the next day once they get their reports, and we're walking through everything, and they appreciate that. The clients appreciate that. And most of his clients, they use us multiple times because they're buying a bunch of properties, so, and they appreciate the work we do. So that's kind of how I handle things and how I talk to clients, not just as investors, but as home buyers, everything. Try to look at it from both sides. We're not just sitting there going, that's defective, that's wrong, you need to fix that, to scare the crap out of them. So that's kind of how we take care of that.
That's a great approach. So obviously things are changing. There's new market trends coming. Both of you gentlemen have decades of experience in the industry. What significant trends do you observe in your day-to-day that inspectors could benefit or should be aware of or should maybe tailor their business to in order for growth?
I think I've seen it in my own business in the last 4 or 5 years, the growth in the investment sector of the business, right? There are things like podcasts like we're doing right here that are bringing more and more light into real estate as an investment. And I think that's bringing out a lot more people that normally would never invest in real estate. So I think that's one thing that we've seen is just overall, whether it's someone who's starting their real estate journey as a 23-year-old just out of college, maybe buying a duplex to do what's called the house hack method, where they live in one side and their tenant pays a chunk of their mortgage, or the seasoned investor who buys an 18-unit apartment building. We're just seeing a lot more people coming into the space in general. It's becoming much more easy, right? Because of technology, because of the fact that I can record HD video on my phone, and Nick can produce these reports, these very detailed reports in 12 to 24 hours. It's just making it a lot easier for the general public to just be able to buy stuff remotely, because you didn't used to be able to do that, or at least not very easily, right? You either had to invest where you lived or you didn't invest. So, which has helped. It's helped us in our market here in Ohio, because we've seen the demand go very, very high, and it's helped prices, it's helped appreciation, it's helped sales, it's helped you guys as an industry do more inspections and bring the general public a lot of knowledge. So
For both of you gentlemen, what advice do you have for inspectors, maybe to partner better with agents and investors? That's a unique space. Mm-hmm. I was an investor for a long time, contractor for a long time. It's not the same level of emotion, and it's just not the same as purchasing that single family home. So how would you approach that business model when you're partnering with someone like yourself, Mike, and or partnering with an investor that's a client of yours? What would you change, or how does that look?
I think for inspectors to better position themselves, they need to be able to convey the message in such a way that it makes sense for the client and lets them make the right decision, not a snap decision where you've scared them. Too many times earlier in my career, you'd have an inspector who's working with maybe a first-time home buyer that might scare them by saying, "Oh, that's really bad," or and not having a ton of knowledge. I think the industry as a whole is improving because you guys now have, at least in Ohio, right? There's a lot more regulations for you guys to be licensed inspectors as well. So I think that's very helpful as well. It's probably weeded out a lot of these other kind of people that don't really know what they were doing, that don't have the knowledge base to talk intelligently about the properties. You obviously previously you could just slap a sign on the back of your car and say, "Hey, I'm Joe's Home Inspectors. Let's go." So
It was definitely the case.
Yeah. So
Nick, what do you? How does your business model fit when you're partnering with Mike? How does it look? How does that day to day look different from your normal property inspection that you perform for a residential home?
Well, I mean, one thing, and a lot of people like Mike like us because he's doing 2, 3, 4 unit buildings. We have a multi-inspector firm, so I'm bringing my guy, and I do this on regular homes too. I'm still bringing one of my other guys with me, so we can be efficient. We're not in tenants' ways. We're not taking too much of the time up, but we're also being more thorough. If I did it by myself, I can still move fast, but I may miss something because I'm rushing around, and we do a better job together. A lot of the times with Mike, his clients aren't there, so we're not even talking to anybody. So we just do our job, get it done, get the report out to them, and then we just have the conversations after the fact. So it's a little bit different in that way. As with a home inspection, you usually have your buyer there, you're walking around showing them stuff. But the way I model my business is a multi-inspector firm. You don't have to even be a you can be a single person, but have a helper working under you, just to kind of keep the flow and keep everything going. And real estate agents appreciate that. And we're ultimately working for the clients. Like they're the ones that are choosing us. But 80-90% of my business is still coming from people like Mike, other realtors that are comfortable with us, that we know what we're doing. And you build those relationships. You have to have that relationship. You can't just be... You can be the best home inspector in the world, but if you can't talk to people and you can't build a relationship, it don't matter how much knowledge you have. My biggest advice is gain as much knowledge as you can, talk intelligently, and if you don't know what you're talking about, or if you don't know something but it looks wrong, just say, "Hey, I looked at this. I'm going to talk to a couple people, do some investigation on this, and then I'll make my rating after the fact." But you don't know everything. I've been through thousands of home inspections, and I still don't know every single thing I see. You think you know everything, you think you've seen everything until you run into something you haven't. So just speak intelligently. I mean, once you do enough, you know a lot, but just make sure you're open and honest with the client, and don't just freak people out for no reason.
Well, Mike, Nick, Ohio Home Inspector Network, Inspector Talk, thanks you for coming on. I appreciate both of you gentlemen. I know we have some busy days to get to, so we're signing off.
thanks.
Thanks, guys.